Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I wanted to talk about the latest game I've been playing, which is Berserk Boy. This is a retro inspired 2D side scroller. You'll see the sprite art here, and it's a pretty good game developed by a very small team, as far as my understanding. Berserk Boy Games, which is what the company is called, I don't know if it's just one guy. I don't know how true that really is when you hear that games are made by one single person. I'm guessing they would have had to have asked for help here or there, but maybe not. I don't know. But this is definitely a small team, if nothing else. And it's a fun game that I've enjoyed. I enjoyed beating it, but I had some criticisms. And there were some times where maybe I did kind of wish that there was a bigger studio involved. I'm not really sure in what ways exactly, but we'll explore those here. The game is pretty similar to your Mega Man's, is how I would most easily describe it. Just a quick and dirty description. You have different suits that you acquire from the different bosses, and that lets you get through certain passages and other levels, and generally makes the game easier to get through. And also, the structure of the game is very reminiscent of Gravity Circuit, which is another retro inspired 2D side scroller that I played in recent memory. And I'm going to be comparing Berserk Boy a little bit to Gravity Circuit because Gravity Circuit to me is an exceptional side scroller, one of the best I've played in the last 10 or 15 years. So, one area where I do think Berserk Boy matches Gravity Circuit would be in the visuals. Great retro style pixel graphics, just really detailed in the character designs, in the animations. Gravity Circuit is a little more of an NES style. Berserk Boy is a little bit somewhere between a 16-bit and a 32-bit game, I would say. Maybe more like a 32-bit PS1 game. But regardless, I think the graphics in this game are really well done. There's a lot of heart in them. They're nice and bright. The characters are different from one another. And the other thing that has it in common with Gravity Circuit is the mission structure. Kind of. I said it was a little bit like Mega Man, but also Gravity Circuit has sort of a Mega Man flair too, where you're basically wearing different suits, for lack of a better term, to give you different abilities. But the other thing that's the same in Berserk Boy is how you start before you choose a level. You start at like a command center, and the command center has different rooms you can go into, and that's where the shop is, where you can upgrade your suit and a few other characters. One thing I didn't like about Berserk Boy compared to Gravity Circuit was Gravity Circuit had a command center filled with a lot of different people to talk to and a lot of different things to do. Whereas in Berserk Boy, it kind of feels unfinished. There are probably just as many rooms in the command center as there is in Gravity Circuit, but the difference is there's like two people to talk to that are worth talking to. All the soldiers that you rescue that end up at the command center just hanging out, they're just like fun little sprites just hanging out with like one little bit of dialogue. There's nothing to actually do with them once you rescue them. In Gravity Circuit, there was a lot more to do, and Berserk Boy has probably 8 or 10 rooms with just like nothing to do in them in the command center. So that's kind of the jumping off point that serves as a way for you to get into the levels proper, and where to take a break and upgrade your stuff. But it seemed like it was supposed to be a lot more robust, and it just isn't. So I think that's a little bit of a criticism for Berserk Boy. But let's get on to the gameplay because that's what everyone cares about. I think the gameplay feels good. It is really responsive in terms of controls. When you play as Berserk Boy without any other add-ons or anything, Berserk Boy can basically, his regular attack is a shockwave sort of. It's sort of like Blanca's move, where there's sort of like an electrical field around you, more so than like a punch going forward. So he can do that. He can also bounce on enemies and do like a downward smash, as we've seen before. And you can combine those two. And you can actually dash. You don't have to just dash downward at an enemy. You can dash in any direction. And once you dash, you can hit the attack button to give him a little electric shock. It works pretty well. The only problem is that it works a little too well. And that sort of goes for every suit in the game. Maybe not the ones that are more attack focused, but the ones that do have a proper attack that's like fairly useful. You can pretty much get through 80% of the game with any suit. And that's not really how they want you to go through the game, but you can if you want to. I didn't go through the game like that just because I wanted to have as much fun as possible and use all the different suits. There's one that lets you fly. There's one that throws knives or kunai. So there's a lot of different ones to try, and they're all pretty fun to use, even though we've kind of seen everything here before. We've played Mega Man and games like that. But regardless, it's a pretty fun game to control and to beat up enemies. And, in a lighthearted 2D side scroller, that's what you're looking for. You're also looking for a little bit of platforming goodness, and I don't know if there's much here in Gravity Circuit. That's the other thing is I enjoyed this game, but I think overall the big, most important things, I think it fails in a little bit. The graphics obviously are good. The art style is good. The sound is good. I like the soundtrack quite a bit. It's the same person that did the soundtrack for Shredder's Revenge, the TMNT beat 'em up. So that's all good. Audio and visual is good. Gameplay, I think, is a little lacking because the platforming is pretty much rudimentary. There are a few parts that are challenging, but you kind of just accidentally die a few times, figure it out, and then you get through it. The rest of the platforming is, like I said, it's really paint by numbers. It's basically like, oh no, there's 3 platforms in front of me that I have to jump across, and they're all going to fall into the pit if I don't move fast enough. And then you just do it. Like, it's kind of like, if this was the first video game you've ever played, you'd be like, oh, I got to be careful here. But it's not very challenging. And I'm someone that fancies themselves to be like an average video game player. I'm not that good. And I blitzed through this game with very little problem. I actually thought the game was a little shorter than I expected to. So, something else to keep in mind. But overall, I had fun. I expected this to be like the super big 2D side scroller for a couple years, and it just didn't really turn out that way. Some of these retro inspired side scrollers I've had really good luck with, and some of them have been like a mild disappointment. I don't think I'd go quite that far with Berserk Boy, but it just seems like gameplay wise, everything could have been given a little more time. 6 months to a year to just improve the levels, make the suits that you wear a little bit different, and focus a little more on tuning the challenge as well. None of the bosses in this game are hard. Sure, a few of them, like I said, same as the platforming. There's a few where you'll die a few times and then figure it out, but you're never really that frustrated, and you never feel like you're in danger of not figuring it out. That sounds like a compliment. It's kind of not, because really just the same attacks that I used for the first boss, I was just using for almost every single boss. Unless the boss was set up in a way that it wanted me to use one certain suit and I couldn't beat the boss otherwise. Other than that, the bosses, I pretty much fought them all the same. And that's really disappointing. And another thing to mention too is I didn't even really try that hard. I just kind of spammed my usual Berserk Boy attacks, and I beat them all. And it wasn't hard. So I think this game could have used a little more time in the oven. I'm happy with it. I don't regret not playing it. After Gravity Circuit, though, I was hoping for a little bit more, and I've heard more praise for Berserk Boy than I think maybe warranted. I think maybe it's a tad overrated right now, but overall, a pretty good game. If you like these types of games, this will scratch the itch for you. It's probably an automatic purchase for you. If you're just looking for an indie game that you've heard a lot of good things about, I wouldn't discount it, but I would look at some other options too and weigh those against this game. And it probably goes without saying, I would rank Berserk Boy over this game any day of the week. That's just my humble opinion. But I do think it's a way more robust game with a lot more thinking that went into it. But in fairness, like I said, I don't know if there was outside pressure for Berserk Boy to get released, but it just feels slightly unfinished and in need of a little bit of a tune-up. So other than that, though, a successful game. If there's a sequel, I would expect it to be that much better with that much more outside assistance to maybe tune the game to what the first one should have been. But we're almost there with this series, so I look forward to what they have to offer us in the future. But overall, I had fun with the game. It was more or less what I expected, other than just the overall quality I thought would be a little better. So what do you think about Berserk Boy? Have you played it? Are you interested in playing it? Let me know in the comments and all that good stuff, and I'll talk to you guys later.